Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the UnFuckIt Discussion. I had Twitch open, which is why the volume was coming back at me. I'm sorry, John. I'm sorry it wasn't you, it was me. It's been one of those fucking days. Danny could end up ranting quite a bit tonight because I'm having a bad day. It is October 23rd. It's the end of October. I still don't know what happened to August, but it's the end of October already. Was it like 1 week till Halloween for all those who are scrambling to get costumes, etc. together? That's what we're doing in our house. All that fun stuff. Welcome to the insanity. I don't know about everyone else. Well, let's just say, all you guys out in Twitch land, I don't know how your week is going. I know with the Unfuckers, we've had a non-stop conversation going, especially for the last 5 days, that pretty much opens up every day with what the actual fuck is going on, and then everyone like just sitting around going, I don't know. I don't know what to think anymore. I don't know what the hell is going on. Am I floating around in some alternate reality that is like been created by some guy on acid? Because this has been insane. So before we get into all the insanity, like talking about the physical effects, the physical symptoms this week, and the stuff everyone's been feeling has been over the top, crazy, crazy, crazy. I want to talk about the geomagnetics. And we're going to go take a look at the geomagnetics because we've had some pretty strange stuff going on. Give me a second. I'm trying to pull it up. Here we go. Do we have it going to come up properly? Yes, here we go. Okay. Over the course of the last week, so you know we've talked about it. I've said the graphs are just keep going down. And to the point now the graphs go down for like 4 and 5 hours multiple times a day. I have done, go away mosquito. I've tried analyzing things like, is it satellite placement? Whereas if the satellites are in certain positions in the orbital around the Earth planet, that they get blackouts. No, it doesn't line up with satellite position. It doesn't line up with moon position. They just keep going out. But they do seem to go out at certain times a day that is moving, adjusting, like daily. It seems to adjust a little bit every day as to the times. But we have these massive blackouts in the feeds continuously. We've been having, earlier in the week, or I should say earlier last week, we talked about it. It was pretty rough and tumble for a while. The weekend was relatively calm on the geomagnetic spectrum, so to speak. Come Monday, it all started again. I'm not going to show you all the way through all of this stuff. We're looking here. We can see we're starting at October 22nd here at 2022, so 8 p.m. UTC, and you can see we got like these big blasts coming through. Even in the calmer times, though, you can see we have small blasts. These are these orange bands that are coming through here. You can see that there's just been a continuous fluctuation of small bands coming through. And then we get to, I'll take you right up to about, you know what, before we do this, just shits and giggles, I'm going to see if there's any possible way I can get this to update a little more past where we are. I'm hoping that the feed is updated a little. Oh, we've got a little more of the feed. Yes, we will. Just give it a second, guys, and let this update a little more. Okay, so I'm going to pull it back forward again to about 11:30 this morning. October 23rd, take a look at this shit that comes in at just after 12 noon UTC. You see these just come ripping through. Massive, massive blasts, one on top of the other. Now, this is the part that I haven't seen yet because this hadn't been updated yet. We have a calm, and then it looks like we've got another bit of an uptick again. Now, you can see all the tangling lines. Here comes the next uptick. Again, huge blasts coming through. Now, that's all we've got up to. So we can only see today up to 5:18 p.m. UTC. So we go and we look at this. And same thing, when I pull up here and show you the magnetopause, I'm just going to pull it back and again to show you from that 12 o'clock. We'll go here, going this is 11:45. You'll see the magnetopause gets just smashed. Huge hits come in, especially when we get just about here. Yeah. And you can see it's just a crash, 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 massive, massive. It calms down a little bit, and then at around 1400 mark again, it starts building up again to more of the same with these blasts coming in. There you can see them there. Okay. I'm going to take you to the density. So here's our density for today. You can see that just before 12 noon, the density just spikes crazy, about 170. That's very, very, very high. We can sit here and we can see the bulk solar wind streams. We can see there's a couple little upticks here where it jumps up to 450, 460. And in the temperature, same type of thing here. You can see there's a radical spike in the temperature. Here's the thing. Everyone's saying coronal hole stream. Well, that coronal hole stream is not supposed to hit us till tomorrow and the next day. Not supposed to hit us till tomorrow or the next day. When we look at the charts over here, okay, for the last 24 hours, this is where you can see the density, the wind speed, the solar wind speed, and the temperature go all over the place. We can see the massive spikes down here in the Kyoto. But this isn't solar. This is not coming in from this coronal hole. So we've got this big coronal hole. Let's see, do I have a picture of it? Yeah, I'll load it up here. I'll show you. It's quite a big coronal hole coming in, and it's sitting right equatorial. So it'll be directly Earth facing in the next 24, 48 hours. And they're expecting upwards of 700 kilometers a second. Those blasts that you saw come in only hit 400 kilometers a second. And yet that's how powerful they were. We saw that. And you guys have been watching these geomagnetic updates with me for a fuck of a long time. So you know when you see the way it comes in and shreds and pulls back the magnetosphere, we don't see that. Yet the solar wind speeds were only 420 tops that they hit. They're talking about they're going to hit 700 kilometers a second when the solar wind storm comes in. If it does, because over the weekend there was another coronal hole which is now just rotated around the limb, so we can't see it anymore. That was supposed to have hit us this weekend. Everyone was like, oh, prepare, geomagnetic storms coming this weekend. Nothing. Nothing. No uptick in the solar wind stream at all. It was as if it just was, there was nothing there. So we'll have to wait and see how this plays out. Here's the thing though. We keep seeing these coming up over and over again at times when either A, there isn't a coronal hole, or we know the coronal hole wind stream has not hit us yet we're seeing these massive blasts come in. One of the interesting things I want to show you here, because this is like NASA's talking spot. This is spaceweather.com. This is all the usual mainstream crap. Now they're talking about the sprites here, big sprites over Oklahoma. Isn't it funny how all of a sudden we're seeing red sprites? all the time now. 10, 15 years ago, you had never even heard of red sprites. And if you had, it was an event that was so incredibly rare that it was like you heard about it, but there was like maybe one picture available to actually illustrate it. These are now happening every week. New pictures of red sprites being shown. Interesting bit is they're talking about here about whether there's a connection between cosmic rays and lightning storms, which is of course something we've been talking about for a long time, and that's one of the big pieces when you start talking about the electric universe theory. Yeah, all this stuff is all aligned together. A very interesting study here that is mentioned by the article. Do cosmic rays cause lightning? From 2008. Apparently they couldn't find a more up-to-date article than that. Now, here's the interesting piece to this. Someone posted just this afternoon in the Unfuckers group on Facebook. They posted this video. It is on Radio Wasteland, and it's an interview with Samuel Hofman. I've never heard of Samuel Hofman before, never seen his work before. He runs a group called Montana Skywatchers, apparently on Facebook. I've just actually put in a request to join their group so I can actually talk to him. Nibiru. So we've talked about this. We've thrown this. How many times have we gone through this? And we say, got to keep all the theories have to stay on the table until we can sort through and figure out what's going on. And the Nibiru one, well, let's just say, shall we say, the classic Nibiru Planet X shit, because that's what I call it, doesn't resonate with me. And I don't know if 90% of it is the way it's presented, of like, Nibiru's coming, oh my God. It's almost like a cult. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's almost this, people who believe in Planet X, Nibiru, it's to the exclusion of everything else. Well, it's kind of like everything else, I guess, right? Everyone's got their narrative. Once they hook onto their narrative, you can't get past it. So this Samuel Hofman guy, I was like, okay, it's a Nibiru video. I'll give it it's 10 minutes long. I got 10 minutes to kill. I'll throw on this video. Very, very interesting. Now I'm going to it's a 3-part interview. Each video is 10 minutes long. So it's like 30 minutes. Well worth listening to, because this gentleman talks about Nibiru in a way that no one else is talking about it, to my knowledge. He explains the fact that we live in a binary star system. Oh, you mean like every other fucking star system out there is a binary system, right? And Nibiru, if you want to call Planet X Nibiru, this second star in our system. That's why I hate using names, because then you automatically, people lock into their preconceived notion of what it is. Anyways, we're going to say Nibiru. It's not just a random star floating around that happens to cross our path once every X many thousand years. He talks about the fact that it is an entire star system, solar system, just like ours, with planets and moons. So as Nibiru is coming closer, it's not just some star, it's an entire planetary system that is coming in. Now, I'm going to go out here and say, when you watch this video, this guy's talking about all these images, etc. I haven't seen the images. I haven't had it, like this was literally 2 hours ago that I discovered this video. So I haven't had a chance. I've asked to do the research. I have asked to join his group. I am going to try and pull him on the show, get him to come talk to us, talk about some of this stuff. But the way he explains the movement of that system into our solar system and the interplay of not just this other secondary star, but all the planets in that solar system, makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense from some of the shit that we've been watching on these graphs. So if we think back, and you guys will remember me ranting about this back in January, from January 2nd to January 23rd, 2019, Every single night, we had a massive blast hit us like the one that we just saw, that I just showed, very much like that, at around between 12 midnight and 1 o'clock in the morning, every single night. And we kept saying, like, what the hell? How, if there's this blast, this one energy, something is hitting the planet, there's an energy exchange, there's a wave of energy coming in every night at the same time. And it wasn't just that. If you remember, it was the fact of when we watched it come in, we many times saw that it came in on an angle, that we were seeing, it wasn't just here's the sun, here's the earth, and the blasts were hitting the earth. It was like, here's the sun, here's the earth, but the blast ricochet, if you will, the effect from it was coming off at angles. And we kept saying, in order for it to be doing this, there had to have been another variable in the pattern. There had to have been either, and when I went right back looking at Nibiru stuff again, Planet X. There has to be a third party, a third variable that's going on here for it to affect and see a very specific directional movement of the energy. Same thing, we've gone through all these over the course of this year. We've had times where the geomagnetics calm down, it's not so much going on, or it's more random pieces, it just, there's no, but then every so often you get a month. June was another month where the same thing, it was like clockwork. There were like blasts coming in. Right now, again, we're having blasts coming in at set times. A week and a half ago, it was between 7:30 and 8:30 in the morning for about 5 days straight. Every single day. And the blasts were huge. Now we've got it again. They're coming in at 12 midnight. Again, we're seeing these blasts come through. So if we're not talking about just a star, a secondary binary star to our system, but an entire solar system of planets, which are all moving, and every time they move, they're making electrical and magnetic connections to our planet and all of the planets in our solar system, including our star. Now, one of the biggest problems I've had with mainstream solar theory is the fact that they go on about the 11-year cycle, 11-year cycle. The sun is on an 11-year cycle, solar minimum, solar maximum, solar minimum, solar maximum. But they can't explain why all of a sudden the solar minimum has hit, 3 years early. We've been in solar minimum since 2017. We didn't exit solar minimum until 2010. That's only 7 years. It totally shatters their whole 11-year cycle. And this guy said, like this Samuel Hofman, he says, well, what's happening is as Nibiru, as the binary star is getting closer, it's connecting to our star. It's the bigger star. It's bigger than our star, which means in any magnetic and electrical theory, the larger, more powerful one is what charges and not charges, is what controls the smaller magnet, the smaller electrical field. And what he explained is that as this secondary binary star is coming in and it's bigger and stronger, it's pulling energy off of our star, which is making our star go into a solar minimum.
It seems like that regularity is a nail in the coffin, because it's like if the sun were the only variable, there wouldn't be regularity. Like,
there can't, I mean, yes, you could sit there and go solar flares, coronal holes, but these patterns don't fit within that paradigm. We don't have coronal holes, or we're not seeing solar wind streams at the right times that would explain these blasts. And we're not seeing, there are no solar flares. There are none. We have been something like 42 days without a single spot on the sun. That's like serious solar minimum. That's like crazy solar minimum. You can't question that you're in solar minimum. Years and years early. Years early. So I want to get a hold of this guy, Samuel Hofman. I want to talk to you because there's a couple of things that he's talked about. One of the things he mentioned is they've been taking photographs of these planetary bodies coming into our system. As the planets are coming in, as the system's coming in, their planets are coming real close to ours. And they've been apparently taking photos since 2010 of these planets, to the point that they can now identify which planet it is by the photographs, looking at the texture of the planet, what it looks like, the markings on it, etc. So like I said, I haven't seen these images myself, so I can't comment to that. But going by just what he's saying in this interview, one of the pieces he talked about was one of the planets, every time it comes close to Earth, as it comes close, it sucks up a portion of Earth's atmosphere and water. And then, in my understanding of what he was saying is, as it goes past Earth, it goes boom and dumps it down again. Which is why you see places all of a sudden get a year's worth of rain in one day, in a couple of hours. It's just a dousing rain. So, again, we've been talking about water. We've been talking about, just last week, we talked about there has been a change in Earth's atmosphere. We can feel it. Our ears are doing this weird atmospheric change continuously. We can feel it in the pressure, the headaches that people are talking about, etc. There's been a change in the atmosphere. And again, this is somebody presenting a theory, a hypothesis, that does have many aspects of it that fits into what we've already been talking about for several years, but especially this last year. So it's very, very interesting to me. And I like the fact that he is another person who's like electric universe theory. All these bodies are linked together. They're all tethered together, electrically tethered together. These magnetic fields are moving back and forth between as our planets are rolling around our solar system, and the other solar system's planets are doing the same thing, and they're all getting closer and closer. Now, the one thing he said is, no, there's no planet is going to crash into us. That's not the way it works. But again, he does talk about all the cataclysmic things that have been happening, earthquakes, volcanoes, all the things that we've been talking about for ages, because
well, and that's the heartening thing about it, is that like rather than starting with a theory you're already married to and trying to find data that fits it, like you've been looking at the data and it's like, wow, this theory actually seems to support what we've already been seeing, and it's refreshing to be going at it from that direction, you know?
Yep. Well, it's the only thing we can do is we just try and gather up the pieces and put them on the table as to, here's a guy who, like I said, I've never heard of him before, which is really shocking to me because, like I said, I've done a lot of research into Planet X and listened to a ton of videos over the last 10 years, etc., and I've never run across this guy's name before. So very interesting. So I'm definitely going to reach out to him, see if we can get him on, because the guy he was talking to, he didn't really ask the kind of questions that I would ask. It wasn't his knowledgeable area. You could tell that he really didn't know. He wasn't familiar with the information, so therefore, if you're not familiar with the information, you're not. There are questions that I would have asked, and I think one of the big ones that I want to get into is, of course, the physical anomalies that we're witnessing ourselves, and like the pressure changes. And again, this isn't something where he said we've already been talking about this, so it was very interesting to me that he talked about this one planet coming by and stripping off pieces of our atmosphere, because we just hypothesized that several times over the last couple of months. So pieces. It's another interesting one to look at. It's another, and of course, we've said it. And in the Unfuckers group and on Facebook, how many pictures have been posted in the last year of two suns? Like, I'm going to say probably hundreds. Yeah, some of these could be doctored. Sure, they could. Some of them are lens flares and lens flash. Yep, no doubt. But we have seen too many of these coming through where it's people themselves. And when was that, July? When you saw it yourself coming back from Dublin?
Yeah, I think it was. And it was unmistakable, you know. There was light cloud over both discs, so I could see them really clearly. Amazing.
And you said not with a camera, that's with naked eye, looking up and going, there's two suns in the sky.
And speaking as a Photoshop expert, there are things you look for when you look for fakes. First of all, like there are multiple angles. If there are multiple angles, that's one thing. If there are multiple people in the same location doing the same thing, that's another big thing, right? And also if there's a lot of pictures, you know, like if there's a lot of pictures, there's multiple angles and there's people in the same location all doing it, that's not Photoshop, right? And yes, I have seen pictures of two suns and one of them is a lens flare, or, you know, like I've seen that too, but I've also seen way too much that all fit in those three criteria to discount that it's all just people Photoshopping it. No.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, Dawn.
I was going to say, I also, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay.
We can hear you now, hon. You glitched just for a second. Oh, your internet's really spotty.
Yeah, it's me. It's me.
Yeah,
Okay,
your
so I'm holding.
internet's real shaky.
I'm going to go to my office.
Go to your office and then you know, chime in. One of the things that was interesting, because he talked about as these planets went by, they're not little teeny things in the sky. He says these are massive, massive planets, which is why, I mean, we have seen photos where, like, you get, like, for example, our sun is over here and it's this big, and there's this frickin' orb over here, and it's the size of a dinner plate. And people are saying, well, that's ridiculous. You can't, it doesn't work that way. And he's saying, yes, it can, because that's how close these planets are coming. Now, he talked about shadows, and he talked about the sky changing color because of these other planets, and basically light reflecting off the other planets and changing the light on our own planet. But the piece that I put together was one of the things he mentioned just really quickly was the fact of sometimes these planets are so close they almost darken the sky. Like they actually can darken the sky significantly as they're going by. And because of the speed that our planet's traveling on and their planet, it can be a matter of minutes to just an hour. And I want to say it was in 2017. There was a series of videos that were the what do they call them? The cams, weather cams in Australia. And we commented and we watched them for a month, where you would watch out of the weather cam, you'd look at the time and the sun would start to come up and the sky would get completely blue, not just twilight, but completely blue. And then all of a sudden it would go pitch black again. And then 20 minutes later, half an hour later, the sun would rise again. And you sit there and go, is that what it was? Because we couldn't, same thing. It was one of those anomalies where we were going like, what can do that? And there were, same thing, there were cams, weather cams in Alaska. There were weather cams on the east coast of America, and up, I want to say up like Long Island somewhere, that were all having these kind of strange anomalies at sunrise and sunset. Well, again, what this guy is presenting is a theory or a hypothesis that actually would give a bit of explanation. What that could possibly be. It's just the same thing. There's just at the same time as the sun's coming up, there's a planet going by and it just shadows the Earth just quickly, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and it's enough to be captured on these. And these, like I said, these were weather cams. This wasn't people with iPhones or their own cameras and you can make up excuses. These were weather cams. that are out there, so you can go through the footage for years and go, this anomaly never happened before, and then all of a sudden it just happens for a couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden it's gone and it never appears again?
You know, and some of these planetary bodies are, you know, we're so used to like looking at Jupiter and Mars, you know,
Yeah.
for that size, and these fucking things are big. Like, they'll take, you know, like I'll walk out here when the weather gets weird, because I started catching on the whole, whenever I call it flash weather, it comes in on us.
Yeah.
It's strong and it's rain. I mean, and I'll look up out here and I can like see, I look for that curve, very large. I can see it like right over us. And the thing about Samuel is he does amazing, like he'll actually put a picture up of the sky and then he'll outline it out for you. So it'll be like totally, like once you see it, you can't unsee it, you know?
Yeah.
And I would credit him to helping me learn about, because like you said, we had 2 years ago all that water. It took about two and a half days for us last time, I think. But this time it was 1 day.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah. So, and then like we were saying, in Dallas just got hit, so something shifted north. But those look more like the Dave Dobbs objects, the two balls that are going together.
I don't know.
Traveling very
Fucking
fast.
crazy shit. Crazy
Yeah.
fucking shit.
And he actually called that. I think he was only 1 day off on this Dallas deal. So, you know, there's
just
some
realized
smart
I had
people out there.
I had the chat closed again. Sorry, guys. If anyone on Twitch, if you have questions, type them into chat, and John or someone will bring them in for me. I just had my chat closed. I completely forgot that I had the chat closed. Oops. Beth Ann, did you want to add something? You've got to unmute yourself, hon.
There
you
I
go.
was just further to what Don was saying about like seeing the curves, these great big huge curves. Like I was in Samuel Hofman's group. I'm in Samuel Hofman's group. I haven't been in there for a while, but some of the things that he talks about and some of the pictures that you see in that group, and just the things that he's talking about. I mean, just like anything else, there's parts to what he's saying that I think he really does have a piece of this picture, and it's so mind-blowing. I'm telling you, it is so mind-blowing, because like she said, once you see it, you cannot unsee it.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm not 100% sure about all of it, but I'm telling you that I have seen some stuff that just has blown my mind, and it does come with some crazy weather. So I just wanted to add that.
Well, and we would expect it. I mean, this is the whole thing. Again, when we talk about crazy freaking weather, and we talk about earthquakes and volcanoes and all the rest of it, there's a cause and effect there. And that, like I said, some of the pieces that he brought forward definitely connect dots in many, many, many pieces that we've already seen, that we've witnessed ourselves, and we've already discussed. So it's well worth digging into. It's well worth digging into and taking a closer look at what he's got to say. I know I will be researching him later on. I'm going to reach out to him and try and get a hold of him and say, hey, dude, come on this show, because we got people here who want to talk to you. But I want to get it beyond that. I want to get into the physical shit, because this week, on a physical level, we were in 0 kp today. Basically, until that second blast came in at around 3 o'clock, we were in 0 kp all day. We were in zero kp for half of yesterday. Unless we get this minor solar wind stream come in and we actually get a geomagnetic storm, if that happens, it will pop us up into at least the 3 kp, 3, 4, perhaps 5 if it actually pans out this time. We hope, because it was the last 2 the last 2 days, there's been a lot of physical, I mean, not just, I shouldn't say just in the last 2 days. It's been, like, which we know, the last few weeks. But for me personally, what I'm watching in my immediate family, in my pets, in my friends surrounding me, people who I'm talking to, there has been massive shit going on. Again, we're talking about heart incidences. I can't tell you how many messages I saw or like got sent personally, or you're just scrolling through your wall on social media and another person saying, my mom died, my dad died, my grandmother was just rushed into hospital with a heart attack, et cetera, et cetera. Massive amount of strokes, heart attacks, different types of heart, not just heart attacks, but heart issues in general.
I actually have a thing about that. My dad had to go to the hospital because of, some, difficult, like heart issue, difficulty, like speaking, and they did all these tests. And this is the second time this happened. They've done all these tests and they're like, we don't really know why this is happening to you. But because everything's showing up normal, like you don't have any clots anywhere, you don't have any and they basically just, so.
See, that just wires right into that hypertension bullshit, because just last night, and I shit y'all not, going about a mile each way from me, there were 2 separate sets of people that had barricaded themselves in their homes with a fucking gun, and one of them had family.
For literally just gone off the deep end
Gone
and
off
just
the deep end. I'm telling you, like, I sit here every night now and I hear sirens all the time. Like, it's every night now. And then helicopters like crazy, and yeah, it's just.
Well, I want to talk about the young people, because I mean, we tend to focus on things like, our older relatives, because if we're going to talk about heart issues, a lot of times it is strokes, seizures, heart issues. It tends to be the older generations. But we're getting reports of younger people checking themselves into hospital for thinking they're having a heart attack. I got a second message this week from someone else whose son literally went to the hospital, 22 years old, thinking he was having a heart attack, and terrified that he was dying. It's not just affecting the older people. And with the younger people, I think, personal opinion, that there's such a disconnect on that physical, if you're 50, 60, 70, and you start getting heart, chest pains, et cetera, it's going to be shocking. It's terrible. But there's that little part of you who goes, okay, well, I am a little older now. I guess it's possible. Whereas if you have 20-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 22-year-olds who are suddenly knocking out with massive chest pains, thinking they're having a massive heart attack, there's a level of not just shock, but
hysteria.
Almost, yeah, like a hysterical, like what the fuck is wrong with me? I'm 20, I'm 17, and someone just said here, 17-year-old's been having heart pain for almost 3 weeks now. My eldest daughter, 17, she's gone through this as well.
Then wouldn't it make sense if now the older people that are mostly more settled in, sometimes have keener senses at some point because they use their senses all the time, were the first ones who got it. Now that like you said, like an object comes in, the whole environment changes now, right? Like, and now even the younger guys catch up to this, you know, like if there's really something with the magnetosphere that is affecting us all, right? Like, and you have maybe some people that are more keen to this reaction and some people that are like more blunt, because the young people grew up with all the electronics, magnetics all around, right? They probably are the last ones who are getting it.
Yeah.
Well,
And they're stronger as well. Like, let's face it.
Well, yeah, but that can also work against us, though, because like some of these physical symptoms are blindsiding us. We're not used
and
to
that's what I'm saying. There's
like,
exactly, blindsiding is a perfect word. Zero.
Like,
perfect word.
And we live in the like the younger generation has the culture of, well, can't afford it, so I'll ignore it. You know, and we're not used to like checking up on our bodies and like, you know.
Exactly. There's been a radical uptick in this. Now, and beyond, and putting aside for the moment, because we tend to focus on the really big things. Putting that aside for the moment, the other physical effects that people are talking about. So we've talked about the changes in pressure. And again, this week, we were driving yesterday and we were on a flat fucking road and Nick and I's ears both popped at the exact same time. We're on a flat road at maybe 20 meters above sea level. You know, like we weren't climbing mountains. We weren't, you know, on elevators going shooting up the CN Tower. No, flat road. All of a sudden, boom, ear pressure. That has been off the charts. I'm talking people. I stopped with my fruit and veg lady on Sunday. I'm talking to her, and she says, I'm talking to her, she's doing this. She's like, I don't know what's wrong. My ears I can't hear out of my ear. It keeps clogging. No idea. And then there's literally there's been a wave of digestive issues. Everyone in my house in the last 4 days has had some form of digestive issue, and yet entirely unrelated. So it's one of those things, you know, it's obviously not food poisoning, because otherwise everyone would get sick at the same time. It's not the stomach flu, because it's presented differently for every single person. I was ready to assume it was a viral type thing until I started talking to all my friends. And I've got a pile of friends, and it's like, literally, it seems like all my friends all over the world are like, either have diarrhea, or have been vomiting, or have had indigestion, or extreme heartburn. Almost, literally, it's like almost every family I'm in touch with, someone in the family or a couple people in the family are going through these kinds of things. So the same type of thing. We always talk about, well, the symptom has to stay on the table. When we're seeing it across the board, there has to be more to it than it's just a viral infection, a bacterial infection or something. There has to be more to it.
Anybody check the oxygen levels on this planet? Does anybody check these levels? Because
I have no idea how to check them.
You know, like on Friends, you remember when they said they were taking the
oxygen? Yeah.
That the lifespan would fall to what, 43?
Okay, but Rosanna, is it too low or is it too high? Okay, because we always, and I said this during that whole Fringe episode. You ask anyone who say, what are you breathing right now? What does everyone say? Oxygen. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're breathing nitrogen. Oxygen is a little tiny part in there. You're actually breathing nitrogen. So we talk about, okay, because one of the things that we're talking about a massive amount of is oxidization. Metals oxidizing super fast. We're talking about skin, oxidization of our skin, of our systems, massive oxidization. So is it there's not enough oxygen, or is it that there's too much oxygen? This is a question that I really, really, really have at the moment. Given some of the other things that we've seen, Now, it's hard for me here in my locality because we live on the sea. So you have a lot more other aspects. We have damp sea air. We have a lot of salt in the air, which is really corrosive. But we've literally watched pieces falling apart, metal, and it's not just me. It's other people I'm talking about saying, they would, do something 20 years ago and they'd know that screw, that hook, whatever would last for a good 10 years. And they're going and replacing it. And within 6 months, a year, it's rusted through.
But how would
that's oxidization.
How did we actually find this out, Nanny?
I don't know. How do we measure I assume someone measures oxygen levels.
Would this be a Ben question? Could his company have something does somebody have anything that can measure this?
Well, let's go with for anybody who's been mountain climbing and is familiar with the effect that too much oxygen levels has on your brain, it makes you feel or
that's lack of oxygen.
Well, that's lack of oxygen.
That's lack of oxygen when you're mountain climbing. But no. Let's define that. Okay, because again, that's a misnomer. The air becomes thin. The air becomes thin. It's not necessarily lacking in oxygen. Yeah. It's the air becomes thin. So when you climb K2, when you climb Everest, they take oxygen, they call them an oxygen tank. It's not oxygen, it's air. It's compressed air. It's the perfect mix that you need to breathe. It's not oxygen, but we call it oxygen, which becomes really, really confusing when we talk about this shit.
But I guess my point is, if you're not breathing the perfect mix, you feel this head pressure, definitely, and you feel this kind of confusion, like that.
Wouldn't that go along with how I was feeling the other day, or for 3 days, Danny, where I told you I felt like I was halfway out of my body, like I was a fucking ding-dong head, and I'm just la in it.
Okay, but you see, that's very interesting, Zero. That's really interesting, because what kills people in climbing Everest is when they get that oxygen deprived, they become physically weak, they become exhausted, and they do that thing where they're like, I'm just going to sit down and catch my breath for 5 minutes. And the moment they sit down, they fall asleep and they never wake up again because their system just shuts down.
You're not only climbing uphill, you're thinking uphill. That's what it feels like. It feels like thinking requires effort.
Even thinking is too hard right now. Emotionally, been off the scale this week. I literally, everyone I've talked to has been, I've myself today, I was in a foul fucking mood, as these guys will attest. I feel better now because I'm talking to you guys. But when I first came on in the pre-show, I was laser beams coming out of my eyes. I'm ready to start fucking punching people. I'm in that bad a mood.
What about your body, having this lurching feeling?
There's been a lot of that.
Because I've been getting that, for several weeks now. And it's I'm even starting to wonder if I don't have Parkinson's or something.
No, because it's not just you, Earl. It's everyone. I mean, this is one of the things that we're talking about, is that people are feeling this, there's a dizziness. And it's like you say, lurching is actually a really good word. It's really good word. So I got to spray myself down.
It's when you have a friend who's in the front of the car and they'll be where they'll just slam on the brake, and you go, when you go forward. Yeah, it's
no, and that's just it. And this is that dizziness. There's a feeling of being unbalanced, and a kind of unbalanced in all ways, not just physically unbalanced, but kind of emotionally unbalanced, mentally unbalanced. Everything feels like it's not quite balanced at the moment.
But then there's times where I've woken up and I'm on my leaning on my TV tray table thing. I feel like my body's being pulled down some kind of weird, some gravimetric weird thing. And it's
double gravity for you today?
Yeah. It's I have to like pull my. It's like it's almost like that where that it's almost like sleep paralysis in a way.
Your body just doesn't want to work. Nick and I were walking the dogs the other day, and we took them down to the seafront, and we've got a big lot of stairs to walk up. Well, the shortcut to our place is to walk between the buildings up this thing of stairs. And Nick and I both, by the time we got to the top of the stairs, we looked like a little old couple, like kind of helping each other up the last couple of stairs, and just kind of like get to the top and going, holy shit. And then you got to walk, 50 feet up the street and then walk up our flat stairs, up the stairs to our flat, and instead of going like, no, I'm sorry, but that took a lot more effort than it should have, and laughing about it. But at the same time, it was both of us. Both of us are pretty fit. A flight of stairs, but like you say, that lead, like your feet feel like they're made of lead. You're just trying to get up the stairs. Hold on, guys. I'm just trying to catch up here with what's going on. There's been a lot of emotional stuff going on for a lot of people. A lot, especially with kids. Kids are having a real hard time, and I don't mean just like teenagers and young people. I'm talking about right down into the little ones. Lots of stuff where they're just glitching out. And it's the same thing. It's like physically glitching out, where they all of a sudden they start crying, emotional, angry, etc., and fluctuating really back and forth. The animals, same thing. Oh my God, everyone I'm talking to, the same thing. It's like their dogs are either, dogs and cats are either completely glued to your side, won't let you go anywhere without them, to acting completely neurotic, like jumping up at things and running around and acting completely crazy, barking at nothing, and reacting strangely. Like I said, we've had several instances now since that earthquake that we had a few weeks ago, where Groot's gotten all screwy, and we've been like, is this him warning us that there's going to be another earthquake? Because he's acting really, really strange.
I think for animals, because I know this, with my dog, Odie, like, I can, like, make a sound in my bedroom, and, like, he'll hear it, go start barking. Now, to me, I think animals' hearing probably has gone up, so they're hearing all types of shit, and they're reacting to what they're hearing. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, even if you think about the tones. So, for example, that was one of the other comments. The tones have been crazy loud. Whether you're hearing ringing in your ears, whether it's multiple tones. For a lot of people, it's multiple tones. Crazy loud. Well, same thing like you just said, Earl. If dogs and cats' hearing is that much more sensitive than ours is, can you imagine what that must sound like to them in their heads? Holy shit. If they can hear it, I assume they can. Yeah, Maury.
Yeah, I've got an observation. Listening to everything that you said, and I agree, all that stuff is happening. You've identified a bunch of external things through this whole program, and also internal things going on. It makes me think of a puzzle with a bunch of pieces, like a 500-piece puzzle. And initially, for sake of telling a story, all the pieces were turned upside down. Well, what we've been doing is turning the pieces over so we can see the colors. And now we're starting to, wondering, well, geez, this might be all part of the same puzzle. And there might be a bigger thing going on than the isolated,
Yep.
All of these isolated things are happening, separate things are happening, internal and external, all over the place. We're identifying them now, where before we didn't have a clue what they were. Thought they were just not related, but they are related. And the question now, looking at the bigger picture is, what is that picture trying to tell us?
Yeah. And that's why I talk about these things. Like, I don't want people to think that this show is about everyone lamenting and Danny doing nothing but whining and complaining about being dizzy or having a headache. That's not what this is about. This is about taking an inventory, if you will. Taking a broad spectrum inventory. Now, like I said, in the Unfuckers group on Facebook, there's like running conversations on these things. Have anyone felt this? Because then it's a personal thing, right? It's like, well, all of a sudden you have a screaming headache that comes out of nowhere, and you say, is anyone else just got hit with a screaming headache? And all of a sudden you get like 5 or 6 people go, yeah, it just hit me in the last 15 minutes. And you go, okay. So it's not just me. There is something going on that is unseen at this moment. We don't know what it is, but we can say there is definitely something going on.
And there are sometimes in the group where it's like, oh, I guess it is just me. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Someone gets a cold. I'm really got a bad cold. Has anyone else got a cold? No one else has got a cold. Okay, it's just me. And yeah, Lori, and this was the thing with the nausea. And because I hadn't thought about it. You think, like I said, my first thought when I first experienced it was to think, okay, my stomach is off. My stomach can be really off sometimes. I talked to my doctor, Ann, over there, saying, yeah, my stomach's doing shit, which she just told me to eat instead of not eating, which I tend to do. Thank you, Ann, by the way, that really helped this morning. But you have an assumption to jump to the assumption that, oh, it's just the same old thing, until then someone else in the family, and then someone else in the family, and then then you're talking to other people. You're talking to friends in Canada, you're talking to friends in England, you're talking to friends in Australia, and a friend in Japan, and everyone is all talking about having either diarrhea, being extremely nauseous, or having bad heartburn and indigestion pains, all at the same time. Okay, now we have to look at this and say, okay, this isn't just a viral thing. It isn't just and it was the same thing. Yeah, exact. Dawn, ears too. Nancy talked about the tinnitus. I can never say that word. Tinnitus. Last week. But when we start talking about it, that's when all of a sudden we realized that we were all having the pressure changes in our ears at the same time. I assumed, again, that it was just a local thing for me. But it's not. In talking about it, we've realized, no, this is like all over the place. Everyone's talking about this ear pressure and the pain in the teeth, pain in the lower jaw, especially pain in the lower jaw and the bottom teeth. Mine is all of a sudden, it's fine. All the pain is completely gone. Just stopped. Nick's, same thing. It just fucking stopped.
On that point, I like to use a different, if you will, comparison. When I used to work at the paper mill in North Carolina, and we get off of work at 3 p.m, and I'd walk down, and if it was going to rain, I could smell it. You couldn't see it in the sky.
You can smell it.
And there was no precipitation, but I could smell, for some weird reason, I could smell it. And I mentioned it, and people look at me like I was nuts. Well, 15 or 20 minutes later, it started to cloud up. And about a half an hour after that, it started to rain. It's kind of like that, what you're talking about. The ones that are, they're basically, you're smelling different versions of the bigger picture. And we're talking about them, and to say, wait a minute, this fits, this fits, this fits. Son of a bitch, it might rain pretty soon.
It might be fucking pouring by tomorrow.
And by the time the masses see it, it's water pouring on their heads.
Yep.
But in other words, we're a little more sensitive, and we're talking about what we're experiencing and sharing.
Yep, absolutely.
That's what's really going on, and the next step is to try and see what the picture is. Don't know what it is. I got visions and ideas, but they're not universally accepted quite yet. So I'll just let that go. The point is that it is cohesive. It's not just random. I will say, I'll go that far. There's a cohesiveness to all of it, and we just got to figure it out, and we will. Yep. I will maintain. We will.
So one of the other aspects to this. Okay, sorry, Zero. I just want to jump into here. Is so we've talked about the emotional, and everyone's been talking about the emotional. I've been like up and down, like a fucking roller coaster, or being completely numb. and just being completely disconnected feeling where you just have almost no emotions, to the physical, the aches, the pains, the sickness, the headaches, the ear thing, etc., dizziness. The other piece is what I will call the energetic, if you will. And I'm going to, the other, maybe not energetic, it's the things that are coming through in dreams, that are coming through in meditations, remote viewing, if you want to call it that. There's a lot, and there's been an uptick. I put a post in the UnFuckers group because there's been another wave of dreams come through that I've seen, where people have sent me these dreams that they've had that seem to fall into a set category, if you will. What I, in my mind, I call like a category of dreams. And that is, the one is the organizing dreams, whether it's organizing moving, but it's organizing, it's you're organizing people, or you are trying to organize your stuff, you're trying to get things sorted out because you are moving, you are going somewhere else, you are, or have moved somewhere else, and now you're trying to set things out. Seeing large groups of people and being involved with large groups of people, usually, again, there's the overall feeling is that you are going somewhere, you are all doing something, you're all there for the same reason. And spaceships.
Yeah,
and again,
may I ask a quick something? Is that kind of a quality of a dream when you wake up? I mean, it doesn't have to be something you are missing or something, but it's like you were there, you experienced it, now you're waking up and you have to get used to being back here while you would love to be over there. And I don't know how to put this other as an empath. It has something very tragic, something, it is like you want to shoot yourself, I'm sorry to say it this way, you want to shoot yourself in the head to be over with, to be there, you know what I mean? And you're just waking up in the here and now, and everything is just so strange. It's like you're homesick to somewhere you don't even know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And we've talked about this like for years now. This, and there's a word for it, and I've forgotten the word for it. And it means to be wanting to go to somewhere home, yet you don't know what that is. That yearning for this place that you don't even know is yearning for this place, but you don't know what it is or that it even exists. Yeah, Zero, pop in. What do you want to say?
And you forgot about it because you don't want to be remembered about it. But now you remember it, and you can't forget about it. Sorry for interrupting.
No problem.
I just wanted to bring up a little point to all the skeptics out there. I'm the first person that will think, oh my God, your headache does not make you a special snowflake, you know? Like, I'm the first person that will think that. And yes, and just like the Photoshop thing, like, yes, there will be times when it's just happenstance, that people just happen to have headaches at the same time. There will be times when people just happen to have dreams at the same time. But just like the Photoshop thing, like, yes, there will be times when you take a picture and just so happens to look like there are two suns, you know? But when it's happening regularly and repeatedly and so often, that discounts the fact that it's just people wanting things to be connected.
Yeah. There's coincidence, and then there's like, come on. It can't be coincidence.
Speaking of UFOs, there's been like, in the last 24 hours, I've seen like 4, 5, 6 UFO pictures and videos that people have posted on Facebook.
Yeah. Well, this is what I wanted to bring up.
Go ahead. Finish?
Yeah.
So every year, you know, I look into predictions for, you know, the year. And what I heard on one prediction was UFO sightings are going to increase in 2019, and I believe that's what we are seeing. There was one over again at a Chinese airport. They had to shut down. I remember the one being in 2012.
Yep, I remember that one.
Yeah. So, and what have we been like dreaming about? You know, UFOs. So things with manifestation, it's like it starts in one place and ends up, you know, in another part of the realm that, you know, now you can see.
Yep.
Now, I don't know if it's particle beam or whatever, but, you know, it is happening. Just saying.
Well, this is the thing.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Dawn.
Okay, I was going to say that I find it interesting that we're having all this activity in the skies. And of course, you know, our story from Sedona, like there's a whole fucking deal going on above our heads. So, and now Trump with this whole Space Force, it just kind of like, you look at it, like they know what's out there.
Yep. Well, and that's and we've discussed this. Just to jump back to the whole dream thing, because it's very, for me, I like to collect the pieces of information that come to me from sources that are outside my normal range. Right? So it's like when you get an email out of the blue from someone, you get a message out of the blue. When you get multiple messages on this within 24-hour period, and you know that, like, you know, this person and this person don't talk, don't know each other, and wouldn't know about these private messages. And I got a message about the same thing, about someone having a dream about seeing ships in the sky, looking up, and there's being a whole pile of people on the ground, and look, I'm seeing a whole pile of ships in the sky. Now, I've had that dream multiple times myself, like so many times over the last, especially the last 6 years. That dream has repeated itself to me multiple times, and it's always crystal clear when you see it, at least when I see it. Then, not 6 hours later, another friend saying having a dream, and this time it's one of those organizing dreams, to the point where her and I, we have a joke about it, about the fact of, oh, you were out there with your clipboard again, getting everyone all organized. And she was saying the difference is from, as each time you have that dream, you actually in the dream feel more confident about what you're doing, like you've trained for this, you know what you're doing. And she said that this dream that she'd had this week was like the same kind of thing. There's always a slight variation to how it looks, feels, but the basics of it is, again, it's always the same thing. You're organizing people into groups and helping them get organized into these groups and where they're going. And she said this week it was like there was a feeling of extreme confidence, knowing that you knew your job, you knew exactly what you were doing. Everything was you that confidence in herself of like, yes, okay, here we go. Yep, I have no worries. It's not like being the newbie on the job. It's like you've now done the job so many times. You've run through the scenario, and that's what she said. It was kind of like you've run through the scenario now so many times that at this time when you do it, it's like flawless. You're totally confident that you know exactly how it's going to play out. I got a private message this morning from a friend of mine whose son is, let's just say he has very interesting dreams. And he and I have actually sat down and had several conversations about some of the things that he's seen in dreams. And it's very much a lucid dreaming situation. That he has seen many of the things that we have talked about over the years. He's seen like the big white room. He's seen these massive gatherings, etc., etc. And she sent me a message and said he had one of those dreams last night. And when he gets very, very severe sleep paralysis when he goes through this. And so she came into him, and when he came up and he woke up, he turned to her and said, "The ships are coming. We have to go get on the ships." Once he was up, like actually awake, he has no recollection of actually saying that. None whatsoever. To the point of like, Mom, like, she's like, that he clearly said it. She says, he opened his eyes, looked at me and said, "The ships are coming and we have to get on the ships." So this is, again, we're seeing another one of these waves of these kinds of dreams. And they seem to always come exactly like that in waves, where it's not just one person having an odd dream. It's all of a sudden a bunch of the people all having the same or similar feeling dreams at the same time. And we've been talking about UFOs. We've been talking about this, about with the ships, etc. And funnily enough, the guy who, from the video that I was talking about, what was his name? Samuel Hofman, was it? He talks about spaceships as well. He talks about spaceships being there, and there's so many spaceships overhead that you can see them if you just know what you're looking for, etc., etc. So all of these pieces are coming together, and it's like Maury said, it's like there's a pile of pieces on the table, and we're flipping over pieces, and we're flipping over pieces, and we're flipping over pieces, and putting them together and looking at them all. It's very, very interesting. Now, I'm not going to give names because I don't have permission, I guess I should say. I haven't spoken to find out if this information was released publicly, so I'm just going to say someone who purportedly has a lot of knowledge on this topic has said that there is supposed to be a mass landing in early 2020. And that this landing was already supposed to have taken place, but it was called off, if you will, several times. Rescheduled, if you will, because the timing wasn't correct, which, Anne, I thought you'd find interesting because of the fact of how many times we've had that complete in meditation, in dream time, being at these meetings, these huge, massive meetings, and the frustration of just fucking do it already, being so fucking angry and frustrated with the delay upon delay upon delay, and going in and saying, like, no more fucking negotiations. Stop the fucking negotiations. Just get on with it. This is fucking ridiculous. So then again, this other piece comes to me from something that's completely outside my normal realm of anything that could have no connection. There would have no connection between me and this other piece of information. And here's this piece. Boom. Another piece that's talking about these same things. Yeah, Rosanna, those meetings, exactly. And now it's like, exactly, it's like one of those meetings.
And it's not like you're just looking for similar pieces. Like, pieces are coming to you from, yeah, like...
Exactly. They just come in. Like I say, you get someone who says, by the way, so, you know, I had a dream, or my child had a dream, etc., etc. These are relevant pieces as far as I'm concerned. We cannot toss this shit away. We can't just say, oh, it's just imaginary. It's just a dream. It's just there's too many pieces to it for it to be coincidental. That's
you know what
point.
would be interesting? The people who had these dreams, especially about these ships, or like you said, the fleet fights, the people that had these dreams, would be interesting if they can remember terms like X up for fleet, or how did the ships move? Did they actually, like in Star Trek, warp from A to B, or actually jump, like standing still and appearing somewhere else instead of moving?
Honestly, Bossy, for me, I've only ever seen them literally flying in formation, like as in lines of them, and just slowly flying in formation. I've never seen like what you're talking about. Every time I've seen them personally, that's
no. It's like the ship sizes that you can see are literally like cruisers, or maybe up to corvettes or something like that are actually still moving, like with propulsion, but they are ship types that are actually, it would be ridiculous to move them, so you jump them from A to B, without actually moving them.
I get what you're saying, but I'm just telling you what I've seen, right? Small ships.
Yeah, or
of all different shapes and sizes, but small and just cruising along.
Or interesting would also be to know, especially the people who witnessed or dreamed about these fights of ships or fleets in the sky, would be interesting to know maybe a little bit more. Does one fleet maybe focus fire where the entire fleet evaporizes another ship instead of spreading fire or something like that? That would be some really interesting information, and especially hang on one more second, the dream about this white room. Are these people who having these dreams are maybe being kept there? Because I had once a dream about a white room where only were fed rice and milk to have like absolute sensor deprivation. Everything was literally white in that dream, like being in a apartment and everything was kept white, even the food.
No, I don't know. Everyone who's had the white room dream sees it differently. From being a very smallish, maybe a 10 by 10 or 10 by 15 room that's just white, to being, I've seen small rooms, I've seen the massive rooms where the room is the size of a very, very large ballroom, if you will. And, the ceilings are 20, 30 feet high, and it's all white. And that's why I say, like, there's everyone sees it, perceives it, because anything that you're seeing in this, your brain is interpreting information that's coming in. And your brain is always going to give it a physical picture that your mind can comprehend. So, for example, one of the last times I saw the white room, and it was very, very big, like I said, ballroom size, as I saw furniture all along the walls. Except as I was looking at it, I knew that in my eye, if you will, I was seeing like bookshelves and armoires, etc. That's what my eye was seeing. But as I was looking at it, my brain knew that that's not what it was. It was actually equipment that my brain couldn't comprehend. So my brain was putting a picture of a bookshelf there to let me know there's something on that wall.
Exactly.
But it's not, you knew that wasn't a bookshelf.
Like the brain speaks in terms of feelings and interpretation. So like the visuals that your brain decides to interpret is whatever. Like the fact that all these different rooms look different means nothing to me. That's fine. But they all have.
Danny. Okay, sorry, Jerome.
Oh, I'm done. Yeah.
Okay. On that point, Danny, what you're talking about, it's metaphorical to you.
Yes.
So you can interpret it, not literal.
Yep.
And
exactly.
We talk about a white room because it's metaphorically. It's not. So having said that, it probably is not a white room, but that's a good metaphor for our brain to interpret it, so we get the sense of what it is.
Yep.
It's just like reading holy books across the board. They're not. People read them literally all the time, but then the scholars and the whatever else you call those people, they say, wait a minute, it's a metaphor. It's a way of transmitting an idea without being literal, and that's I think that's what you're trying to. Well, in my way of interpreting, that's what you're saying.
Exactly, and this is the thing. So it's like, for example, I talked to this young man who's a friend of my daughter's. And he was telling them that he has sometimes these really crazy dreams. Quinlan and Kara, being who they are, come and tell me that, you know what, Stan has these dreams and he has problems with them sometimes and it really upsets him. So I sat down with him and I said, well, you can talk to me about anything that you see. With his mom was there too. I said, you're talking to the one person who will absolutely listen to you and will not in any way, shape, or form deride anything you have to say. I actually want to know what you've seen. So when he describes the white room to me, and he's feeling kind of embarrassed, he says, there's all this white room, and I keep end up in this white room, and I always feel confused, and I'm like, okay, don't be confused. You are not alone. The white room is a very common one to see. And explaining to him, like, how many people have seen it, reported, been there, and their feelings, and the different ways they've perceived it, et cetera, was huge to him, because it was like, it's a little like, I'm not fucking nuts. I'm not fucking nuts. I'm not the only one. Holy shit. Oh, I feel so much better. So then he started talking to me about other pieces, and knowing that he had someone he could talk to who would literally take it at face value and explain to him, and then also give him my own pieces and be like, I know what you're talking about. Have you seen this? And he'd be like, yeah. And I'd be like, okay, have you seen this? And he'd be like, yeah. And
that's my favorite part. Like when you give someone space to speak with inner authority, like what comes out.
Yeah. And the same thing, these are young people. They're not in on our kind of conversations. They don't have these kind of conversations. And they're very much embarrassed to talk about it with their own generation, because they don't want to be looked at like a freak, or they're afraid of being left out of stuff, or not being seen as normal, as the fear goes. So when I get these messages come in, and that to me is a very major piece when it's coming from someone like him saying, I saw, the ships are coming. You go, okay, well, that has to be a piece of the puzzle that we need to keep directly on the table. It's there.
Going back to the Lilo stuff, because that's from the White Room in the Lab first came about, right?
No.
Remember? That's how I first heard about it.
No. I've been talking about the White Room since frickin' 2011.
Yeah.
No, the White Room is it was brought up during that whole thing, but it's not from that. No.
Well, that might have been the first time I ever heard about it. But anyway, remember we were talking about how it might be like a waiting room, like for wherever it's supposed to like happen next?
That was someone's interpretation of that. Yep. It wasn't an interpretation that I ever resonated with, but that was an interpretation that was put on the table for someone. This is the thing. We don't know what it is. All we do know is that it has to be a
relevant piece.
Thank you, Zero. A relevant piece. There's a relevant piece there in that has to stay on the table, so to speak, when we're talking about these puzzle pieces that we're looking over.
Like, especially when it comes from left field, from somebody who's, I don't know, a normie, from somebody who's like not in these kind of discussions, especially when it comes from somebody like that. Like,
yeah, well, that's what I say. So it's when it's for example, if you're talking about young people, if it's something my daughters start talking about, I can always play devil's advocate and say, okay, well, they listen to me talk nonstop. So there is that psychological, they could have got it from, they're dreaming about something because of a conversation that they overheard me having the week before, the day before, etc. But when it comes from outside that circle, that's a different story. So I'm just trying to catch up with the chat is just like, oh my God, so far ahead. I gotta try and scroll back a little bit here. Yeah. Now that's the other thing I wanted to talk about was the tones thing. To get back to that, because that was something that happened to me yesterday that was really, really strange, and it was one of those things that I was exhausted. I've been exhausted all week to the point of I'm waking up and I'm ready to go back to bed. Within 15 minutes of being up, you have your coffee, you're smoking. I'm like, okay, can I go back to bed now? Because I'm that exhausted. And I went and laid down yesterday because I was just done. And I was like, not even to sleep, just to go lay in bed and just read quietly. I have been extremely noise triggered at the moment. I have zero tolerance for noise at all, whether it's speaking volumes, like in a house full of kids. It's been interesting this week. The dogs barking. I literally have zero tolerance for any kind of sound and noise at the moment. I went to lay down, reading my book. After reading about 20 minutes, half hour, I start to feel your eyes start to feel a little heavy. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm going to have a little nap. I'll let myself just nap. Took my glasses off, put my book down, and just I didn't lay down, I just leaned my head back. The moment I leaned my head back and closed my eyes, the tones that I was already hearing, because, you know, they're just there all the time now, literally jumped up in volume to be so loud that I kind of was just, you almost open your eyes and go, what the? So I started listening to the tones, and I do that because I'm a musician, so I'm always trying to analyze the tones, pick out the tones, how many I'm hearing, what are they making a perfect third or a major fifth? I can't help myself, it's just the way I think. So I'm listening, and then all of a sudden I realize that there's an over top, I'm hearing three specific tones, but over top I'm hearing a, for lack of a better term, a rhythmical tone, intermittent.
Like a harmonic?
No,
No?
Not a harmonic. It was actually a lower frequency tone, and it. Okay, how do I say this? I hear tones. When I hear the tones, I know what direction they're coming from. I hear the direction of the tone, so I can say that this tone is coming from here, this tone is coming from here, and there's another tone that's coming from here. And I can't explain it otherwise. That's just how my brain
basically it's
maps it.
Auditory spatial tones.
There we go. Yeah, see, look, there's a term in auditory spatial tones. Okay, these tones. Well, I'm listening to the three tones that are coming from here, here, and here. Here, there's another tone, and it comes down, and it's dropping down, and it's rhythmical. It's not high pitched. It's more of a medium pitch. And it would happen 2 or 3 times, and then there would be a break, and then I'd hear another one and would come up. And again, it would be a different tone, a different timbre of sound, if I will, coming up. And at the same time, I'm listening to everything going on in the house. So I know I'm not asleep. And Nick says something in the kitchen, which is just, my bedroom is just right off the side from the kitchen, about dog food. And I called out to him and said, without opening my eyes, I called out to him and said, there's more ground beef in the freezer to make dog food up. And when I said that, it was like it broke the almost trance, if you will. And I opened my eyes and sat back up and picked up my book and put my glasses back on to go back to reading. And the volume just went right back down again. But it was the moment I closed my eyes, the volume went right up. And the moment I opened my eyes again, it came right back down again.
It kind of reminds me of that effect that you have. Do you know, like when you're watching, especially in a movie theater, like a movie, and you're paying attention to it, and it kind of becomes your world. But then if you like stop looking at it, you just like kind of get out of it. Is it like that?
That could be a good way of explaining it. Auditory spatial tones. I'm going to actually hang on to that because that's actually very, very, I'm going to actually have to look into that because, yeah, very, very interesting. Almost a hypnotic state. Yes, Joanna, almost a hypnotic trance-like state, except that I was, like I said, fully aware of everything that was happening around me to the point that there was a fly that was buzzing outside my mosquito net that I could hear trying to get her in all the way around the net. You could hear it buzzing and trying to get in. Hearing the kids in the background, hearing the dog Nick walk up the hallway with the dogs prancing behind him because they knew it was dinner time. Certainly wasn't asleep, but hyper aware, yeah. So just trying to catch up with the chat again. And the same thing, I talked to another friend of mine, and they were saying the same type of thing, where like when you have that quiet time, when you go somewhere quiet, all of a sudden the tones become so loud. Like when you walk away, it's like you hear them, but you just ignore them. You block them. It's like you block them out because it's so always there. You're in the kitchen, you're with the kids, you're doing stuff, you go outside. And the moment you go to somewhere where it's really quiet, whew. Who's Peter? Joanna, I don't know who Peter is. Peter Bishop. Yeah, no, definitely not. Definitely not.
If you wanted to know where I got the term auditory spatial tones, I can speak in that sort of language because I have auditory tactile synesthesia, which is, you know, and synesthesia, which is like, you know, a crossing of multiple senses, right?
Yeah.
Can be induced. You can be born with it or it can be induced.
Interesting. So it can be induced with sound or frequency or visual as well.
Yeah, like a lot of people with synesthesia, you can be born with it, or there can be a catalyst that causes you to temporarily experience like a connection of those sorts of things. So that's just another
Makes sense.
vein of research if you want to go along
Well, I'll have to go. I will have to go check that out. That's interesting. You've glued your headphones on, Clive? Really? I'm blocking out the noise. I literally, this week I've been tempted. I actually have earplugs, like the kinds that construction workers use. I keep them in my emergency kit. And there have been times where I've been like, I'm just going to stick them in my ears and go about my daily business and just tell everyone, if you want mom's attention, you better tap me on the shoulder because I'm just not listening anymore right now. Yeah, no, I will look into that. I am very, Deb just said there is also vibratory tactile. And I am very tactile. I am extremely tactile. That touch is I like how I get information from things. Like if that doesn't even make sense. Not information. I guess information.
Sense data, maybe?
Sense data, like by touching, like so, like fabrics, certain things, touch stones, always stones. I fucking love stones, and I pick them up and I roll them around in my hands, and you get a feeling from them, and that's part of it. I'm very, very tactile sensitive, so there's certain. It's a joke where good friends of mine know that there's, like, for example, certain fabrics I cannot touch. And one of my girlfriends was like, oh, yeah, no, I ordered it because she had a really nice shirt on. I was like, oh, I really like that. Where'd you get that? She's like, ordered it from one of those China shops. And she was like, wasn't really thrilled with the fabric. I was like, oh, but it looks really nice. And I reached out my hand. She was like, you're not going to like it if you touch it. And I touched it, and it's like electrical shocks. It's like I pull, it's like, oh, my God, how can you put that on your body? It's horrific. And a lot of stuff like that, I'm very, very touch sensitive on things. So I don't know if that follows.
Yeah, I'm like that when I'm in the shower. Like having the water, like I'm fine in the rain, but with the shower, because it's more condensed feeling, like my body is like, yeah, direct. No. Plus, I think it also has to do when I was younger and I was in the shower, but because of the steam in that, like I couldn't like breathe because there was so much steam coming from the shower that you know, it gave me like a claustrophobic kind of feeling. So it's like, yeah, no, not doing that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess one thing that this ties into synesthesia is cross-wiring of your brain, right? And like,
can you define that better? Because I don't really understand.
Okay, so
fully understand synesthesia.
Okay, so synesthesia is a general term. It's a general term that means when you experience one sense, it automatically elicits another. So for example, like auditory visual synesthesia is one of the most common. Actually, no, well, it is a common one. It means like, you know, when you experience auditory stuff like music, you see visual stuff. Now there are two categories of synesthesia. There are like physical, like actual, and then like perceptual. So like you could literally, when you listen to music, see colors, or when you listen to music, you could see colors in your mind's eye. Yeah. Right.
Yep.
And so synesthesia is just a general term, but I mean, there's tactile emotional synesthesia. There's smell, touch synesthesia.
Yep. Makes total sense.
All sort of combinations, which they're realizing is actually a lot more common than previously thought, but because we never think to question that the way we experience something might be different from everyone else.
Isn't that the truth?
I mean, I was 22 when I figured out that I had synesthesia, right? I just thought that everyone experienced music is a 3D environment, right?
Yeah, darling, I was 45 before I realized that that people don't think the way I think and don't experience things the way I realized that was my communication issues that I have, is the fact that I expect people will understand me because I make jumps and I assume that everyone else has jumped with me because that's the way my brain works. So then I leave it. Yeah.
So, but one thing, this is just my random theory, but I swear our brains are being like these cosmic, I don't know if it's these cosmic rays or whatever, but I swear our brains are being rewired differently. Like you cannot say that like our brain is as an electrical, like our body, especially our brain, is an electrical magnetic thing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, absolutely. When you realize that your DNA is controlled by and controls photons, communicates through photons. This is now proven, absolute proven. On a cellular level, your cells, your DNA communicate through light. What is light? Light is frequency, light is energy. So when we start talking about all these other pieces, and we're talking about cosmic rays coming in, we're talking about the sun turning a different color. The sun literally turning a different color. This is another piece to put on the table and say, well, okay, like when we talked about I posted it in the UU group, and I can't remember if we talked about it last week. We was talking about blue light. They've done studies now that prove that blue light, i.e. LED light bulbs, causes aging, causes changes in your eyesight, causes all of these very direct things. The important part of the study that was amazing to me, it was the fact of they did this test on fruit flies. They were using fruit flies as an example. They bred fruit flies that had no eyes. So they wouldn't be able to see the difference in the light, and yet the blind fruit flies reacted the exact same way as the fruit flies with eyes to this blue light. Exactly the same, which tells you it's not just you're seeing what you see, that light. So for example, we talk about, for example, these LED monitors that we all fucking use and we sit in front of. And people we use, they're doing a lot of computer work or wearing these new glasses now. Okay, but if this light is affecting us, even with your eyes shut, i.e. even if you were blind, you would still be affected the same way by this light. It is that light interaction with ourselves that is this cause and effect. Now, the one jump that I made when I saw the article talking about LED blue light is our sun has gone from being the big yellow golden ball in the sky to being blue-white, isn't it? The light is blindingly white. And to that point of white, if we talk about that, it has a blue-white texture to it. So when this change of light, again, when we talk about these things changing, if we talk about our brains changing, our senses changing, etc. Light is a major factor to that. So, I mean, just that one frequency of just light. Then we take on, like you say, cosmic rays, UVA, UVB, UVC, ionizing radiation. All of these are other frequencies that are coming in. How is that changing us? We know that it has an effect. Or let's say, we can hypothesize, given the evidence that we are collecting over the years, that it's having an effect.
Well, and let's be honest, like the esoteric principle is like as above, so below, as without, so within. Like there's no way all this is changing on the outside and it has no effect on our brain.
Exactly. I agree. I completely agree. Stephanie just said, we had a blind cat when I was little and it never ran into a single thing. I didn't even know it was blind for almost a year. I had a friend of mine who had a cat, and it was the exact same thing. They'd had the cat for probably about a year and a half before they realized that not only was the cat blind, it was almost completely deaf as well. The only time if you got right up to it and really called and made a sharp noise, it could hear. And it was the same thing. This cat just went about its day and knew you'd call it for dinner. Even though you knew that the cat couldn't hear you, that cat knew when you were calling it for dinner and would appear, boom. I don't know, Jim, this is one of those things that I look at all the time, right? So Jim just said maybe we should, oh, no, the chat's going up. Maybe we should get light into our water. Sun tea water with a pinch of salt, maybe some crystals in the H2O mix. Absolutely, and I've looked at that. My problem is at the moment, oh, what a beautiful kitty cat, Clive. He's so pretty. My problem at the moment is that I don't know that the sunlight right now is actually healthy. I have real questions. And like I say, you can only go from your gut. And it's like I've said, I've been a sun worshiper my entire life. My mom tells stories about me lying out in my underwear to try and get a suntan when I was 4 years old. I have always laid in the sun. There's nothing, like in the summertime, laying in the sun is one of my most favorite things to do of anything on the planet. In the last 2 years, I can't lay in the sun. I cannot. And this year was crazy. This year, it was to the extreme of even going out into the sun, even having to walk out into the sun was enough to make me like act like I was a vampire. Like, oh my God, the sun does not, most of the time. There's been a few days we've been out recently where it's like, okay, now it is October. But when you've gone, you know what, the sun feels nice today, it actually feels like it should feel. But for the most of the summer, literally, it felt toxic. Jim, I was taking the kids out swimming at 7 o'clock at night. And even then, I did not find the sun comfortable. It wasn't as searingly hot because it's 7:30 at night. You're like an hour before sundown. It's definitely not as hot, burny, if you will. But even then, it didn't feel good. And that is one of my concerns right now is the sun doesn't feel good. In which case it's like, okay, well then is that light? What is that light? What is that light doing to us? What kind of, it's hard. It's a tough one. Now, one of the things, when I was on Alan James's show, someone asked a question about sunglasses. And I was talking about the fact that there was a study, and it's a very small study, and one of those things that you'd normally go, okay, well, you'd need to see more proof. Anyone in the scientific community would be like, yeah, no, I need a lot more proof than just this. But it made sense to me. And it was talking about sunglasses, and your eyes are the lens with which all that data, light data, enters into your brain. which then triggers everything else, your endocrine system. So for example, talking about the endocrine system, your body makes vitamin D. Your skin is your secondary endocrine system. Your skin translates, if you will, the light from the sun into vitamin D that your body then uses. And the study was talking about, they said, if you're wearing sunglasses, the sunlight is not penetrating the eyes. Therefore, it is not triggering the endocrine system to say, this person is in the sun, start the mechanisms, if you will, to start transferring this energy or transmute it from sunlight into vitamin D. And it was very interesting to me when I read this study, because it was an aha moment of like, this makes so much sense of why everyone is vitamin D deficient right now. Even people are out working out in the sun 3, 4, 5 hours a day, people who are out in their gardens, etc., and they're still vitamin D deficient. But if they're out there with sunglasses on, therefore the sunlight is not penetrating to tell the endocrine system in the sun, turn on the mechanisms to make vitamin D. Is that what we've done to ourselves with the sunglasses? Well, and it's, like I said, I have no proof. I can't, it just was one small little study, but it made absolute sense given the symptoms we've seen.
Well, sure, we have no proof, but everyone can do their own independent study, you know, and go with their feeling. Like, we are a lot more sensitive than we give each other credit for.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I have my phone, which has a SIM card and everything, and Bluetooth or whatever, and I also have another one, which I wanted to find it, but I don't know where it is, which is, it's a phone, but it has no SIM card. The Bluetooth is always turned off. Like, it's basically just like, you know, and I've noticed, like, when I have my phone with me, because I listen to audiobooks, you know, and I've noticed a difference when I listen to audiobooks with me in my bed with my phone versus this other thing that has no other thing coming off of it. I've noticed a huge difference. Like, and I no longer sleep with my phone. Like, my phone is always 6 feet, at least 6 feet away from me when I'm trying to go to bed.
Well, I have a tablet that I read on.
And I've like,
in the moment I turn it off. I don't just like put it to sleep and leave it on my headboard. I turn my tablet completely off every single time I put it down. And it's just habit for me. It's like, that's just, for me, it's like, I just turn it off. I don't want it on. I don't need to have all this crap going on in the background. Just turn it right off and put it to the side.
I mean, I'm just amazed that I noticed a difference. Like, sure, there's the theory, like, oh yeah, there's all these rays coming off of it, but like, I've noticed a difference.
Yeah. Because we're sensitive. We, you know, if you allow yourself to be, if we allow ourselves to pay attention to these things that are going on, and what, even your own instinct, do you know what I'm saying? My instinct my whole life was never to wear sunglasses. I hated sunglasses. I would refuse to have them. I grew up in the 80s when, you know, you had to have your shades and they had to be just the right brand, et cetera, et cetera. Never wore sunglasses. And it's only been in the last couple of years where I've gone out and bought a cheap, crappy pair. And it's because here in Malta, all the buildings are white. And when the sun is that bright and you're walking in the midday sun, you become literally snowblind. It's that snowblind because everything is white. The light reflects, even hanging laundry. Like I said, I've got white buildings all the way around me. There are days when I hang laundry and I'm like this. You've got your eyes open like slits. And even then I put them on maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks, for that moments that you're out driving and the sun is directly smack in your eyesight right here. It's the only time I ever put them on.
That's kind of funny. Going with your intuition, like, this is kind of embarrassing, but like, I always used to hate brushing my teeth until I switched to non-fluoride toothpaste.
And then all of a sudden, it didn't feel. Listen, when I run out of my toothpaste, and you've always got the emergency tube that sits around, and you kind of go, fuck, okay, and I'll use this. It's like, fluoride toothpaste. This is horrifying. It was, yeah, no digital. I would love to make a complete, maybe I need to even do that, do a complete ban in the house of no digital devices whatsoever past 11 o'clock at night type thing, where you just turn everything off, make sure everyone's turned off.
I was going to tell you that that the last rehab I was in, which was, I guess, maybe almost 10 years ago. Anyway, it's one of those it's the one that Dr. Phil sends everybody to here in Texas. And they sent a deal out saying they added to their program, and they have now added a program on digital addiction.
Yeah.
For all the kids that have checked out, like really checked out on the game, like, and it's official. And I just thought, well, isn't that something?
No, I don't doubt it at all. I literally, and that's what I found every day this week, because I've been so out of it, so tired, so unmotivated, that once you get up in the morning, you do all the things you have to do, like orders that have to go out, you get them all packed up, etc., etc. Then I would sit my ass in front of the computer and just, because, and you're saying to yourself, just get up. Why are you sitting here? You're not even paying attention to what's on the screen. You're literally just sitting there scrolling, and you catch, oh, look, there's a pretty picture of a kitty cat. Okay. Oh, look, there's an interesting article. I'm not going to read it, but it's interesting. Okay. And you realize that you're sitting there, and I literally will say to myself, just get up. Just get up and walk away. And walk away and go clean. Go do something, just something to walk away from the computer. And I've been doing that a lot this week. And so there's like people who like send me messages, and I'm like answering the next time. I'm sorry, I've been off the computer since 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. I do it occasionally, not often, but I do it occasionally.
The only thing that saved me is the mentality, like, you know what? I'm only going to do it halfway. I'm only going to do it for 5 minutes. I'll set the timer and just do it for 5 minutes. And then,
yeah. Every time I always say that, it's when I fire up, Facebook, and there's 22 new messages, and just then it's half of them got articles attached, half of them got videos attached. You're like, okay, let's go look at this. Okay, next thing you know, it's 4 hours later, and you still haven't gotten through all the messages and all the links. Eating is one of those things. Stephanie, you just said I can barely force myself to make a meal. Anne told me off today and basically slapped me through the internet to go eat, because I was feeling so terrible. And she was like, have you eaten today? I was like, yeah, no. Like 1:30 in the afternoon. I was like, yeah, no, I haven't eaten, nothing. So I went and got myself like a piece of toast with some ham and tomato on it, just to put something in my system. And even then, you have to force yourself. There's nothing that I want to eat. I made dinner tonight. It was delicious. But you know what? I could have gone easily and just had toast with ham and tomato again. It would have been less effort in the end.
there's your little self-check-in.
Yeah, self-check-in. Oh, dude, you kidding? Have you actually brushed your teeth yet today? Have you gotten out of your pajamas yet? 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah, no, haven't done any of that. Shit. Yeah.
You're not the only one who does that. You're not the only one, girl.
No, I know. Yeah, food is very
everything is just going by so fast. It's like I can be up in the morning, like I've said before, and not feel like it's like 4 hours, but feel like 1 or 2 hours I've been freaking up and doing, whatever I'm doing,
No.
The
time is too fast.
Danny, think of it in terms of quality of life. issues. I will bring it up. Dawn and I, as you probably know, I no doubt you do, we go off together every once in a while and we do things, and we don't bring our computers with us. I mean, we got cell phones and we do check in periodically to make sure we're not falling behind too far. But basically, it's without electronics. I got to tell you, those are the most memorable things that we do. And when we have dinner together, we're not on the phone.
No.
It's like time slows down and it almost becomes time is meaningless. It's really, really freaky.
Oh, time doesn't, even when I'm off the computer, time doesn't slow down for me. I wish it did. Wow. Yeah, the last time Quinlan had a bunch of her friends over, they're all sat down to eat. I mean, big spaghetti. And one of the boys pulled out a phone, and it was like me, my girls, and the boys were all like, "Yeah, not at the table." He was like, "I just got it." I was like, "No, not at the table." And he was like, "Can I just text my mom and tell her I'm staying for dinner?" "Yes, you may text your mom and tell her you're staying for dinner, and then you put that phone over there on that counter." Okay.
My, how things have changed since the 80s. Now it's like time goes by so quickly.
Oh, it's just ridiculous. Ridiculous. Like I said, it's the end of October.
You just sit there. It could drive you nuts if you're out. It's like it's bad enough if you're walking inside a place buying things and you got people walking towards you looking at their gadgets. It reminds me of people being in their vehicles and looking at their gadgets. I'm like, do you have to do that? Well,
Makes me nuts. Makes me nuts. I was walking yesterday. I was in town yesterday. Yesterday, I was in town yesterday. And walking up, and there's a section of the main street in Victoria where I have to go to the post office. These are very, very old streets. So there's one section of this main street. It's the busiest street in all of Gozo, the entire island, where the sidewalk is that narrow. Literally. So you have no choice. Like you've got either people walking up or they're walking down, and everyone else, you walk on the street if you're going past them, etc. So, I mean, drivers are pretty good. They know that you got to watch everywhere because it's so tightly packed there. And I'm walking, and there was like 3 people in a row just walking, and one guy walking up the street with his selfie stick filming, and he bumped into me, and I just kind of was like, and then the next person, not 5 steps later, is another woman on her phone, elbows stuck out, and just walked, boom, and I was just like, are you fucking kidding?
And you wonder why people don't notice shit in the skies.
Exactly. Why people don't notice diddly squat in the sky. Exactly.
Oh, thank you. That you just said there. Yeah, it's like I tell people around here, or even when I'm inside someplace, or I've told them some of you people have tunnel vision, like you just saying. People do not look up. They don't look around. They don't have any awareness of their surroundings. I mean, yeah.
Yep. Okay, darlings. Well, we ended up having a full show tonight. I managed to hang on for a whole 2 hours. I'm shocked as all hell. I honestly didn't think I'd managed to make it that long. Sunday night is Fringe. But in Europe, we have daylight savings times this weekend. So it'll still be 10 p.m. CET. But I'm really not sure what the EST, Eastern Standard Time, will be. If we fall back, then it should be only 5 hours behind. So
how about this? Why don't you let us know a few hours in advance?
So just remember, it'll be an hour earlier, right? Like if we go an hour behind, it's going to stay the same time for us. So then it should be an hour earlier for you guys, or an hour later. An hour later. It'll be an hour later.
But check an hour earlier.
Yeah, just check in. So Sunday Night Fringe, be aware that the time zone is about to change, and it's going to get all fucky because then in another couple of weeks, North America changes, and it'll get all fucky again. Well, actually, it'll go back to normal.
Ours won't change. Yeah, ours won't change here where I'm at until next month. November.
It's next month. It's like November when you guys change over.
I just keep checking it, and it's like, yeah, it's coming up soon enough. Yeah.
Oh.
And Fringe.
Sorry, everyone. Oh, sorry.
789. Got it in my head now. Fringe 7, 8, 9.
7, 8, and 9 this Sunday.
God, I need to catch up.
Bollinger, you're very, very welcome. Like I said, and I apologize to everyone from PocketNet. I totally forgot to put the notice up for last week's show on PocketNet. And I think I even said it just as we were like 30 seconds from going live. I was like, oh, I forgot to put the link up for Job PocketNet. Damn, sorry guys. I try to remember, but sometimes it just doesn't happen that way. Anyways, that's it for us, guys. I'm going to say goodnight to everyone out in Twitch land. Thanks for joining us. And Sunday night is Fringe. And next Wednesday, we're back for the UnFuckIt discussion. Talk to you later. Bye, guys.